of speech,
Yep.
and we can't stop them, so we need to get,
Well, that is absolutely not true. If you disrupt a meeting, it's a criminal violation.
And I guess if you disrupt it, I think.
Now, the question is, what does it mean to disrupt? But he was pretty close.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
told Amanda, like, all these, like, screw you.
But I think,
That was
Yeah.
pretty bad, I think.
We do need to get a policy in place.
but it wouldn't, it would be why, I think it's inappropriate to have a lot of reaction to people's comments. I think it intimidates those that are gonna say something different.
Yeah.
So I think the clapping and the cheering, I think those really
They
shouldn't
said
happen.
that today too, they should not do that.
It's just, well, you think about it, if you're wanting to say, to speak your mind, and it isn't what the people want to hear,
They're
you
afraid,
shouldn't,
don't they?
yeah, they're afraid to get up.
Yeah,
And I think that defeats the whole purpose of a public meeting.
yeah.
So anyway, I thought, he particularly, some of the others just dragged on a little longer than they should have,
Yeah.
but he was, I thought, out of place, and so luckily we had the officer there, and
I have seen like situations where people on purpose will get up and say stuff off the wall, and then get kicked out, and then they sue them.
well,
Sin
it's all a degree of what happens. But there clearly is a criminal violation for disrupting a public meeting, so when it
That's
gets to the
good.
point that it's disruption,
Yeah.
then you can take action. Now, was that to that point? I don't know. It was pretty close.
I think everybody but him probably was cringing.
Yeah, that's
I fell asleep.
a whole different
Oh.
approach
Fell asleep.
to
For a
taking
minute.
care of someone as
I'd set
opposed
an
to
alarm.
freedom of speech. So that's just a different way of taking care of it, so. the
Freedom of
disruption
speech, you'd
part-
never want to stop somebody from saying something legitimate as long as they stay within the guidelines. But the guidelines should include no shouting, no swearing, no personal affronts on individuals, those kind of things.
And I don't know if we have a policy, do we, on our,
I
if
haven't-
not?
I haven't seen
They
one.
said we really do, because we all were in that meeting.
Ask them if they've got a model policy that we could
Okay,
carve up and use.
Yeah.
He said we could email him. I took a picture of his
yeah,
stuff.
because he said
This was
His
the,
information.
your
down
The
at
League of
conference.
City and Towns.
He's an attorney for, I don't remember now what city, and he's talked about their meetings. Anyway,
Well, I would think the league would have a storehouse of model policies and statutes and all sorts of things. Sure be a lot more helpful if they did. If they don't,
would, yeah, and they probably do,
they probably do.
because we saw a lot of unruly meetings, and then they asked us if it was violating freedom of speech or not, and it was, some things were really pretty bad, and he said, yeah, that's their freedom of speech, but he said, if you have a policy in place, that helps you with that, so, yeah. Well, let's go ahead and get started. I think this is just only going to be us tonight for our work meeting on
That's here?
Thursday, September 5th.
Just
Ryan
three?
has been excused. He is out of town, and Lisa started dance tonight and said she would not make it. So, but then, and we would have not, except for we have some things that we really needed to discuss. So I thought we probably should. And one of them was, as we know, last time Planning Commission said about us with the fiscal impact study. And so I know Reed had some thoughts on that. And so,
Yeah, my thought after hearing quite a lot of discussion of that and a whole lot of other stuff last week was I think it makes a lot of sense to have something that you feel comfortable with in terms of an estimate of what the whole thing would bring. The question, though, is how to do that. My thought would be the very best source would be your own accountants, Child and Richards. That is a cousin, by the way. I think he does more the law part of it, though, than the accounting. The Child is the accountant. But at any rate, they do the accounting, I understand, for Plain City, and so they have access to the data that has been generated by the development that went on over there, the Kent's development. And I think if they were asked to kind of audit the material that comes from Smith's, I don't know where else you'd have a source for information other than Smith's themselves. But if you had an auditor that went out and went through their data and verified that it was realistic, the estimates that they're making here based on other places where they've had operations, that seems to me to be about as good as you get.
Well,
I'd-
I've got several places that can do that for us.
Everybody will do it, but they'll charge you a ton of money.
Well, no, this is to be charged to the developer, is the way that it reads.
Yeah, and so that's an issue too, because if you're asking a developer to put thousands of dollars into a study, but making no commitment that even if the study comes out positive, you're going to do anything, that seems to me to be a challenge as well.
Well, from what I understand, this is kind of a common practice that a lot of cities do with large developments, that they require this as part of what
Yeah, I don't know the
what
answer
they
to that.
have.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
I've talked with quite a few cities, and that was one of the things that they did require was a fiscal or feasibility.
Feasibility.
I think you want a feasibility study of some type, or something.
Feasibility
It's actually an
study.
economic study of
Yeah.
what potentially it
That is-
might provide. If you're looking for something more than that, more than just the numbers, then your accountant folks wouldn't be a good choice. But if you're looking for money and numbers, I would think they would be pretty
Well,
good.
I think the money and numbers is just one piece. I would like them to look at, whoever does it, look at Kaysville, is it Clinton or West Point? I don't know where the other one is.
It's West Point.
West
Yeah.
Point, West Point, Kaysville, and Heber's the one they talked about too. I think he did Heber, and just look at that and see what the actual impact and benefit or impact on all resources has been for those three cities.
Yeah.
That's what I would like to see.
I wouldn't think that would be challenging to do, because that's all public record.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's just taking time to dig in and find it.
Right.
But for some reason, I think Smith's hasn't been really forthcoming on giving the actual number that I don't know. Someone dug in and asked for it, and they says, "Well, we don't know," or something like that.
What I thought I heard him say was some of that might be proprietary, and we don't want to
that's
release
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, that's
And within limits, that there's some sense in that, I suppose. And that's why if you had an independent party that could look at it and give you the material without sharing it with anyone else, maybe they'd be okay
Well,
with that.
what do you think would be proprietary that they couldn't share with us?
Well, my guess is they've probably done economic studies of what this potentially would generate for them, and they don't want somebody who might build a competing store to have access to
Right.
whatever they've developed.
Well, I understand that, but as far as the rest of the information, I think they would be forthcoming with us, except for maybe what their studies have shown that they could make. But as far as all the rest of their information, I would think they'd be pretty forthcoming.
I would think so
with
too.
us.
The proprietary, I think, would be just what I said. I don't
Right.
see how that would necessarily relate at all to what monies go from sales tax or from other benefits
Yeah.
to the city.
And I think that most of the people that I talked to, they sounded, because I've talked to some people from Zion's and I've got their stuff, and some other places, and they seemed to be, they said they would be able to do this for us. And they didn't sound, a couple of them didn't sound like it would be that much money. I mean, just a few
Well, maybe look at several of
$1,000s.
those
Yeah.
possibilities.
So I thought maybe we ought to just give them all a jingle and, see what the cost involved would be and things
Certainly
like
what's
that.
happened at Plain City, if they really are the accountants for Plain City, it would be readily accessible as long as Plain City allowed you to have it. But again, it's probably public record. But I don't know if Plain City would care anyway.
Did they go into a CRA agreement? Does anybody know? with
I don't
Kent's?
know.
I don't think so. No.
Is that where you live? Plain City?
You could probably get it as access. Your uncle used to be the mayor there.
Maybe. John would give you access, I think.
Yeah.
Well, and I think like you're saying is public knowledge, because that is sales tax that they're collecting. So I think that is public knowledge. There's no reason, because like our budgets are given and all of our financials are given to the state, anybody can review them. So I don't think that's anything that isn't.
There might be a little bit of work involved pulling the sales tax portion out for this project as opposed to other things, but I think it's something that could be done.
Yeah, that's why I don't think there would be that much cost involved for a professional to do it, you know,
Yeah,
looking at
Well,
things.
you have a list of
Mhm.
maybe 3 or 4 that we could get a bid from. Is that our next step? Get a
Yeah.
bid from them and then select?
Yeah,
have
and
the
then the
council
city
select?
council could select which one they wanted.
Okay.
So I'll just, I've got all their, I brought their information, but I can just reach out to them this next week and you know, get an estimate of their prices and stuff, you know, to do a study like this for us and, you know, give a little thing to the council next work meeting or during the council meeting, our next meeting.
So what I would like to see do is to select a committee to be the ones that end up choosing who we have.
Okay.
And so
Other than the city council?
Well, yes, let me finish. So it would be like an ad hoc committee. So I thought like one city council, so I was thinking you, Debbie, because you're in that area. If we picked one planning commission member, and then if we picked 2 community members, and they're not going to be making any decisions other than they would be meeting to say, we're going to go with this company. So whatever those names you do, and so it's a little bit broader coming from the community, just from city council, so it might seem more neutral. I also have a couple of names. There's only, I was given a couple that in the area, and one of them was Eric. Is that the one you have from Zions Bank?
No, I have Susie.
But haven't we already decided this though? We already made,
Oh, yeah,
we've
I
already
think we made
decided
a
who
thing
was
that,
going to select the person that would do this in a city council meeting. I mean, we've already made that decision.
Well, I don't think we did. I think at the planning commission, they recommended that it go to city council to decide to do a fiscal impact analysis. I don't know that we.
I think we did in city council our last city council, that we decided that we would come up with some names and have them available at our next meeting and then choose from them.
I don't remember that, and we probably don't have our minutes either, do we? I think it would, I just thought if we had neutral people, I mean, not everybody's neutral, I'm not saying that. I know people have their certain things, but if it was just, and all it's doing is coming up with who it is, and I know that I can form an ad, I can do that. I can form, no, I'm going to say it wrong and I said it wrong, ad hoc committee, but then they could just review them, and you could still turn in those names and could review it, and then it could still come back, this is the recommendation. So then we have other people besides it just being city council that goes through and decides that. So then you would have you'd have a planning commission as well.
So you're saying have a committee that can screen the people and get prices and then make a
Yes.
recommendation to the
Yes.
council as to who they think and the council
Yes.
approves?
Yes.
But
Well, that might save some time actually, because if you
Yeah.
have to wait till your next council meeting before you even look at
well,
them.
Yeah.
we would still look at the next council meeting before it was brought forward. So no matter what,
But then it would be by the next one, it would be that already be bringing forward rather than screening and coming. I mean, Lisa, then
well,
you
I
have
don't,
other people.
I don't think
so-
we need to screen. Actually, I mean they're just names. I think all we need to do is call them, because they're all. I mean, we're looking at this with blinders on. You know, we don't know these people. We just got some names, and I think all we need to do is get some prices and then just eeny, meeny, miny, moe somebody. I don't really think it's a big factor, because I don't know that a screening is necessary of them, where we don't know them anyway. We just know that they have been recommended by banks and different types of people like that.
So generally, and this is Weaver County's recommendations when they do this, they recommend there's certain things we should try to find out in this study. One, they should do it is, what if it's houses? So what is the impact?
Right.
Because we're trying to find out not just what the financial is going to be, but different scenarios, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're trying to find out if Smith's is valid or not, if we feel like that's good for the city.
Mm-hmm.
So there should be like some criteria.
Right.
So this committee could actually sit down and say, this is the criteria. And so it should be, if it's 0.75 acres, what's the impact going to be?
Mm-hmm.
If it's going to be a Smith's with a mixed use, what's it going to be? If it was 100% commercial on that property, what would it be? If we end up doing, a different zoning, what would it be? And they could actually even look at what is a CRA. And that's usually what the county does. When they do it, they look at, okay, what are all the different scenarios and what is the impact going to be?
Right.
And usually the city or the county said it usually is about $4,000 to $5,000 they figure when they've had them done. And they said the one they usually use, the county, his name is Eric Donitz. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
So I'm a little confused as to what they're looking at if it's just houses. You're talking not economic impact, you're talking about something else?
Yeah.
Well, because
Policing.
Yeah,
Roads.
policing and
I
other
don't know.
things.
I don't think they will actually look at policing. I think it's more
What?
infrastructure, more what is the economic.
But there's not much economic effect if there's no property tax for houses. So I guess I'm not seeing what they study.
Well, so I guess they're looking at, you put in houses, you have the impact fees to begin with, but then what's the impact on the city after that? Because that's been brought up quite a few times. After that, then houses are just an expense. Because if we're not charging them, if we're not getting property tax off of them, then once the impact is done, the infrastructure's done, then they're not really bringing in income, where Smith's ends up bringing sales tax. So that would be the difference in looking.
What if we start, what if, have you called these three cities that have a Smith's, and have they done feasible, economic feasible impact studies? Have they done those? Maybe get the names of the ones they used.
I could do
and
that.
then add them.
But those are the cities that have Smith
Yeah,
marketplaces.
That I guess Stewart's been involved with. Kaysville, West Point.
No, he wasn't involved in West Point.
Okay, Heber then. But anyway,
And I didn't
nonetheless,
know-
it's a
I didn't know if
Smith's.
he was involved in Heber.
He said something about Heber in one of the meetings.
Well, I can call them and ask them. if
So if
he
all
was
those
and
cities
get
already
their
had
information.
impact studies and we're just trying to look, do we need to reduplicate it, or would they be willing to share their impact studies? If all of those have already done it, and you said you've already called these cities.
Well,
and they
I
already
thought
did
some of
the
those were
impact
just
study.
finished, weren't they?
But ours would be
Well,
somewhat
they're
different.
all
I
going
don't
to be a
think
little
Heber's
bit
even
different.
open.
I mean, you can't, I
I
don't think
don't
you
know.
can compare Hooper to West Point, or you can't compare
Yeah.
Hooper to Heber.
For Kaysville.
So,
And what Heber was a grocery, I talked to her yesterday, I talked to the mayor. So Heber's used to be just a standard Smith's Food King, and then they expanded it to a Smith's Marketplace. And so when I asked her what was the difference of what they were going to be getting, and she said, well, we haven't had a whole year of Smith's Marketplace, so we don't know that yet, but they're estimating probably about 200,000 more in sales tax than it was when it was the Smiths. But she didn't give me a number, but the original Smiths
Well,
was.
I tend to agree that somebody could probably get kind of that information from all three of those cities without doing anything other than contacting the city.
That's what I think too, and there's North Ogden as well. Yeah, they're the other one. So that's what I'm thinking, we probably could get this information without even,
And I guess I go back to, I like accounting because I'm an accountant.
Well, doesn't this also?
I
give us-
think an auditor, that's exactly the thing they ought to be
They
doing.
would love that.
Yeah. But
well,
I-
we could check with them and see if that's something they could do. I don't know.
And I'm not trying to get business for them, but
Yeah.
they're folks that I think you can trust because they're your people. And they could contact those cities and say, I'm the treasurer for Hooper City and I'm looking for this. And I think that's a nice end that others might not have.
I think we could even reach out to Syracuse, because we're probably where they were at, I don't know, 15 years ago maybe.
West Point, do you mean?
No, Syracuse. I'm not talking Smith's, but if you
Oh.
took like a Walmart or yes, Syracuse has a Walmart.
Syracuse has everything. I
They got
think.
Walmart, they've got everything. So they might be a good resource too. Hey, this project came in, how has it affected you? And I don't think it's just, I know the money's kind of like the big buzzword, but I'm more concerned about, hey, 10, 15 years down the road, there is policing. All the research that I've done and looked at, big box stores are a drain
Yes.
actually on the community. There's other commercial opportunities that are actually beneficial to make money. They actually cost cities money. from
The
what I've
infrastructure,
read
yeah.
and what I've
That's why
studied.
Syracuse is
And so I'm
having
a
a
little
big
bit
tax
leery
raise.
of this dangling carrot of the money, but yeah, we do need some income, but at what cost is it really gonna be positive? I don't know.
So we've been at 2 days, us three, Malcolm, Morgan, Jessica, and they.
I was there too.
Yeah, I pointed you. I said us three right here. 1, 2, 3. Malcolm, Morgan, Jessica. Yeah. And the big things they really stressed was, which this is something else which I already told them we're not going to go up a lot because we're all tired. Cities have to have money. So you have two choices. We raise property tax or we get commercial businesses. And you do that, you get sales tax. And there's nothing that brings in sales tax any greater than a grocery store is going to do, plain and simple, because you all have to have groceries. Everybody buys groceries. And they couldn't have stressed that enough. And when they talk about how much percentage they raise, because the Heber mayor brought that up, she said, people said, our taxes went up 100%. Well, okay, they maybe were everybody was paying $100 a year, and now they're paying $200 a year. And everybody's all up in arms saying our income tax went up.
My Ogden City tax this year is $500.
Yeah, and they went up 100%.
Fair property.
And that's the same way with
Or just the
Syracuse.
city.
Just the city.
Yeah.
Just
So from my understanding, on the ballot this November, maybe there could be some voting on, eliminating the sales tax on food.
Yeah.
So what if that happens? What's the percentage of Smith's Marketplace on food versus hard goods or whatever they call it?
that's a legitimate question.
Then what?
That is, and
Right.
they probably have that.
They probably do, but they're not going to tell us. So
Well, he had one. That very first time when he came, I asked him if he had a study, and he said yes. They do have a study. I don't know that we've ever asked them for their study, though. Every time I've listened, it's been, we want our own independent one. Have we looked at?
Well, I
their
presume
study?
any independent study is going to include looking at what they've already gathered and used as projections. And
Yeah.
it would make no sense not to.
Well, I think that I think that as a city, we deserve to get an independent one. I mean, I think that the people of the city deserve one. You don't want something, you don't want. I mean, I know from experience that when you do something, you don't want everything coming from one source. You want things coming from numerous sources so that you have a better idea about what's going on. One source is never a good idea.
Well, certainly not if it's the source that wants the deal.
Exactly.
But,
And so
so I agree. You
taking-
need to have an independent
Yes.
group look at it, but I think they need to look at what Smith's already done because
Well,
that's an important
and
part of whatever they do.
They will, but they may find different things in
They might.
some of their stuff.
And will.
So yeah, so I think we do need to go with this independent study, and I think getting some, but I personally think that since we were elected to do things like this, so the city council should be doing this. Getting. We're not going to be involved in this. We're just going to be involved in helping make a decision. And like I said, we're just going to put out there what we need. It's not going to be any different than a bid. And
So do we even have criteria? So what are we going to ask? That's probably what we need to come up with then. Because before you're ever even calling, we need to know what we're even going to ask them to study.
right.
So are we only studying the economic? Bryce, you mentioned crime.
absolutely not.
Right.
You're
Not
mentioning
economic.
infrastructure.
Infrastructure.
We can get a list. I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
I have
let's-
enough. From the studies I've looked at, I've got enough bullet points where we
So
can put that
let's
together.
just list them then. Let's
Okay.
just do
Right.
that right now.
Well,
So then, because if you're going to be calling these, because we need to get this done as soon as possible. So Bryce, maybe start
Here's the
mentioning.
thing. Now, we've met here tonight, and I had no idea what we were going to be discussing. There wasn't any kind of an agenda. We didn't know we were going to be discussing this or anything else. I think it's a little unfair for us to sit here and say, okay, what are we going to do right now? Well, we've got some articles about some other cities that have done these kinds of things. Well, why don't we why don't we have a chance to review that and then make a list? Which we
That
could
would
have done
probably be
had we known that's what we were going to talk about tonight.
I thought you probably did because planning commission said for city council to decide.
No, there was
So I
nothing,
thought
there was
that's-
nothing said about.
So how much time do you think you ought to have to do that?
To do that? Maybe
day.
a day?
Like,
So why don't you all submit,
I keep,
Yeah.
accumulate them, have Debbie communicate?
Sure,
whatever.
yes,
Yeah.
let's do that. Then everybody by Monday, then submit a list, and do you want to just submit them directly to Reed with that?
To read?
Yeah, or to Morgan?
No.
Who do you want to submit them to then? and
Probably
we'll
Malcolm,
list?
maybe.
Well, and then come up with, whoever's going to do the study, the best group that can review those items that we think are the most
Right.
important.
Well, when,
But I think somehow we ought to have a minute.
So if you submit it to Malcolm and he put them all together, get rid of the duplications and then send them all back to you, then
There you
you
go.
ought to be at a position
Sure.
to make a decision, I would think. You hate to wait 2 weeks to
Yeah.
come up with
Right.
criteria, because then you're gonna not even contact anybody for 2
Right.
weeks.
And then when are we going to vote then on who we're going to use for the study? You said you had a bunch of names.
yeah, I think that, well, don't you think that it would be good if the council had a,
In a council
Word
meeting?
in
So-
it, you know?
So how are we going
So
to?
if you accumulate your list that Malcolm's gonna put together, happy
We'll
with it.
get the, we'll
And
get
then
these people
that goes
called.
to Debbie and goes to you. Both of you
Okay.
can contact your contacts or anybody else that has them.
Mm-hmm.
At the next meeting, come back with what their proposal is for what you want.
I
Okay.
think that sounds good.
And then, like, price, what they would include in the study.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is too, do we, again, with the paying, so, because like, we had, there was no conditions put. So just like Reed said, we didn't say if it comes back favorable, then are we approving it?
Well, if you're talking about a $4,000 study, it's probably not a big deal. But if you're talking about a $20,000 study, if I were the developer, I'd say, well, I want some commitments before I spend $20,000. That if this comes back positive, that you'll go ahead. So I guess that kind of depends, in my view, on what the price is.
And I don't think they're that much. The prices I heard were around $3,000 to $4,000.
I
That's what
don't
we were
see
counting.
anybody having a problem
Set
with
today
doing
4,000
that.
or 5,000, so it maybe would be, so then that's something, how do we commit though that the developer's going to do that? Like at city council meeting, we vote and say this is who we're going to go with, and then Reed, you can legally tell me this, and we just say developer, you have.
Well,
so.
I guess they can say, don't do it, and then you're not going to go ahead with the project. So I suppose what you say is, we need this study, here's what the cost is, are you willing to pay it?
Okay. So if we have those by Monday, then to Malcolm, and we get those, and then Debbie, so you'll contact yours, I'll contact the two that Weber County gave me, and then we can have all that information, and it'll be ready for our next meeting.
Some of those elements, probably you can go other places for. For example, the policing element, I would think that the sheriff would be a pretty good source for telling you what it's likely to increase your cost, and what the crime changes might be.
or just reach out to West Point. They have their own city police.
Well, and
West
he already
Point.
gave that to us, the sheriff gave us that.
Well, it's not, I would like to see it like, let's say, West
Harrisville
Point.
could, a city like Harrisville.
I would like to see an established, like, box store. I heard him say, but
He did Smith's
Smith's where?
in West Point.
Yeah,
That's what his,
That's Davis County, he's Weaver County.
yeah, but didn't his
Well,
study
if
say
they've
that?
got one in
Well, I know Davis
North
County.
Ogden, he may have a feel for that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm,
he did West Point.
West.
That's what this is. They
Okay.
passed this out.
yeah, I'm friends with the Davis County Sheriff. I can
So,
talk to him about different cities.
Yeah, Davis County Sheriff is a good man.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'd be happy
so
to
do you
share.
want to call another meeting like this to review that, and,
You mean Malcolm's list?
or what? Or if we just
Well, it'd be
give them-
nice to do something before the next meeting, so
Sure,
that your
so
next
we
meeting,
all-
you actually vote on
Sure.
what you're gonna
So
do.
we're all on the same
Yeah.
page then. or the best we can be.
Maybe, can you do a Zoom meeting?
Sure. I mean,
Fine with me.
yeah, I
Of
don't care.
course, I don't have that far, well,
How does that
you
work?
have a ways
Because
to
it
come.
Yeah,
could-
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, the quorum.
I guess I could come pick you
You'd
up.
have to have a quorum.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it would have to be noticed, so we'd have to.
Yeah, you'd have to notice
it.
it. You have to give
be
24-hour
recorded.
notice.
We could do it, and if it's easier for you to Zoom, Reed, we could, because we could meet, but it does have to.
Or you could, I guess, do it, I don't know. It'd be nice to do it as quickly as you can, I guess is the
Sure.
point. So if you have all that stuff done in 2 or 3 days, it'd be nice to make a decision. But you would have to have an actual meeting probably to do a decision.
So this included North Ogden Smiths
Okay.
and West Point Smiths.
Is that the sheriff's analysis?
Yeah, it's the Ogden City Police Department and the Sheriff Department. This is from Ryan Arbon that he passed out, and so it was the West Point and Ogden City Police Department, and they gave crime rates in Hooper, and then it went on and did the North Ogden Smiths. So,
Well, if it's okay, I can just call Kelly and ask him about what the impact is, crime-wise, around larger stores, just to get a general idea of that kind of impact, you know, because then it would just be a generic kind of number.
So
It
did
would
he
be
send-
interesting to
Did he just
know,
send that to you, or did
no,
he?
he gave it to Planning Commission.
interesting to know whether the sheriff's office in Davis County does law enforcement for any of the areas where
They
these
do,
things took place.
They're the dispatch system.
Right, but they
So
probably
they-
don't
they
do the
would
four.
know.
I think Clinton has their own police force, don't they?
Right,
Clinton
but
has their
they're
own.
the dispatch system for the area, so they
Yeah, so they may have some
a
idea.
register of all the calls and stuff.
Wouldn't hurt to talk to Kelly, wouldn't hurt to talk
Yeah,
to
I can
Ryan
just give him a
as well.
jingle.
Yeah.
And I can talk to Ryan after sheriff's huddle tomorrow.
Yeah, Ryan likes your family, so
Yeah.
he ought to be pretty outgoing with you.
Yeah, this just went through and said West Point, how many service calls they had this miss, how many were shoplifting, traffic accidents. Anyway, it was
Yeah.
pretty specific.
So I'll just check with them about
Okay.
general.
So our plan is
So
then just
you
come
give
up-
them to Malcolm, he'll get them back to you by next Wednesday or Tuesday. How long will it take you to put it together, Malcolm?
Tuesday night or Tuesday before I leave.
So if they get them in Monday, you could have something back to them on Tuesday?
Mhm.
So you could have a meeting anytime after that to chat about how you want to go
come
ahead.
up with someone that would cover all the areas that.
Well, yeah, so you could agree, if he'll probably have a list of a lot longer than you really want. So you carve that down to just what you want, and then let Debbie, Sherry, or any of you that have ideas of people make some approaches and see what they'll do to do what you've asked them to do.
Sure, sounds good.
Sounds like it makes sense.
Okay.
And maybe too, because you'd said you'd research Bryce, maybe you could find out from some of those other Smiths if they already have an impact study done. And that wouldn't be bad information to have too, because North Ogden maybe maybe they already do. And in the I'm not saying we're not going to do our own, because we'll vet out who we want to, bring the names, but it wouldn't hurt to have
I
found
can
that
call,
out too.
I'll probably just call the city recorder then, wouldn't you think? Or, because the city's the one that would request it, right?
If they did, I don't know.
Call the city recorder for
If they had done a impact study.
they probably know, and their treasurer would certainly know.
Treasurer. Okay, yeah, I'll call those cities.
Which again could be
Yeah.
back to Ryan Child Richards.
I don't know how many cities they do. I
Yeah.
know they do Plain City, but whether they do others, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I could check
Okay.
with Cammy and ask him, or with Ryan
Yeah.
Child and ask him if they did.
But they're probably closed on Fridays too, although all these cities, or I don't know.
Most do half days.
Do they? Okay.
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 So do we want to set a time then to meet next week then to review all of this?
Gotta find my phone.
Well, I can about any time but the 17th and 18th of September.
Well, and
Or
we
if you
wouldn't,
just-
we probably want to either do it next week or earlier,
Well,
because by the
that's-
17th or 18th, we have a meeting on the 19th.
Right,
Yeah.
I didn't mean, I just meant. the
What
week
if
before,
we
that was
just
good.
did it a half hour before planning commission? I don't know, 5:30, this shouldn't take more.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah. should we
Half
plan
hour, I
on
don't know.
5:30?
And I don't know that I need to be there anyway.
Yeah,
I
probably.
don't see any reason. It's
Well,
not,
and we-
So is there any
It's not
other
a
thing to
legal
talk
decision,
about
thank you.
before planning, before,
I definitely
you're
don't
saying
want to go to
half
another
hour
planning
before planning
commission.
commission?
Because that'll be an ugly planning commission.
Well, and we could
Five
zoom,
thirty.
Isn't that
next
treatment
Thursday?
center on
Yeah.
there? Yeah.
Reed, we could zoom you into,
Yeah, you could do that.
yeah. So let's plan then on the 12th, 5:30. Okay. And we'll get that noticed.
Reed, would it just be another work session?
Yeah, it'll just be a work session at 5:30.
I don't know, whether you call it a work session because you are going to make a decision. Maybe. If you decide on who's going to do the study, there's going to be a motion and an approval and a vote. So it's probably just a meeting.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
You may not need a meeting, but you're better off doing it, advertise as a meeting in case you want to make a
Yeah.
decision.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Okay, another thing we needed to discuss too. So, the mayor of, Mayor I went to say his name and I can't even think it, Roy's mayor. Dale, what's his name?
Fenway?
Yes. Anyway, so you know the seniors, they've done away with funding for seniors, and he sent me a message and said, could we discuss this because, okay, let me hurry and pull it up real quick. Unless if we are willing, us and West Haven are willing to give money, they are going to end up closing the Roy Center. And so he asked how Hooper feels about giving money to go in on their center with them, and which then comes back to another thing with the mills, because something else is giving up a little bit about that. So he said he's not trying to put Dandoy, that's his name, Dandoy, Rubberman Dandoy. He just said, so he has to give a decision, and what they're doing is they're coming down and they're going to select 3 centers, but there's more than that centers than they have right now. So he said the only way they told them whether they will end up doing Roy's Center is if Hooper and West Haven are willing to collaborate with them and offer up, and he put a couple of $1,000s a year in support. And he said they needed to have an answer.
How many of our people are going there?
So when they asked before, when Ryan and I went to that meeting, there was, and I don't remember the exact numbers, and Ryan maybe wrote them down, there was maybe 8, maybe, that were going there. We also have some going to Riverdale, we also have some going to Washington Terrace, which I didn't know that we did, but we do, and they have them sign in, and we are. And I said, and I told him, I said, I have to ask the city council because I don't even know how they feel about it. Okay, so keep that in mind. And then this other thing has came up. So Chris Morris and Blair Cottle have agreed to get donations to do meals for seniors. And because they said, why did we kind of give up on the senior? I said, well, no, it wasn't that we really did. I mean, we said we were going to pay for once a month. We had already talked about that and said we would do that, but then they never came back for us to even say we're going to do it once a month.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had mentioned it to one of the seniors in our ward and said, okay, we will do that. And she said, okay, we'll let you know the day before. Well, we never heard anything from them, and then they showed up today to get their meal, and we didn't know. And so then I got a call down at the meeting saying, okay, they're here to get their meal. Anyway, my mistake. I'll take responsibility for that because I should have followed up, but we hadn't heard. Okay, so Chris and Blair went and bought meals for the seniors, and we will reimburse that. So he is out trying to get donations and said about possibly doing meals twice a month, like the first and the third Wednesday, doing meals for the seniors, they would try to get donations so First City could still give money towards, and he said about going to Cade Simpson. They have that catering business. It's down right there by Lisa's dance studio. And he said it would be like $16 a plate. They would come, they would plate them. They will get donations to pay for one if the city would be willing to pay for the other one. And again, I told him, okay, Chris, I don't know. I'd have to go back and, because I said we had talked about that. I said, but now we have this other thing on the table, because I don't know if we do both. Do we give money to Roy to keep their center going? Do we say, sorry, Roy?
What does that
go
include?
ahead."
If we pay to Roy, is that for their meal?
So theirs is open 5 days a week, and people can go there and get food 5 days a week, and it includes an activity. And our people were going there.
Do they pay for the food, or is it free?
So it's like by donation, and it's $5 maybe that they pay.
It's pretty
The
good.
only thing I see as being maybe a possible problem is if the other cities here that were paying Roy for our people, they may want to also have us start donating towards their centers.
Well, they all have 2 cities that go in on them. So you have South Ogden and Washington Terrace that already have an agreement. You have Pleasant View and North Ogden that already have an agreement. And you have Ogden, and I don't know if maybe Ogden and Riverdale. He didn't mention the Weber Human Services never paid for Riverdale. They've completely self-funded theirs. They have a chef. They've never gotten any money. But Weber Human Services has paid for the others. So I don't know that they would necessarily come and ask us for the other ones if we are helping on Roy's, because they already have cities that are in our local agreement.
Yeah.
So
The one thing is, if we start providing things here, then I hate to start paying another place as well, because if we're offering it here and they choose to go somewhere else, then that's kind of on them, if we make it well known that we're offering that here. And if Roy doesn't have the impact of the additional people, maybe they can make it on their own. I don't know. Did they mention that?
So what happened before was Weber Human Services was helping to give the salaries. It's like they actually have hired people, and they say, we're no longer going to be able to do that, so now, Roy, you're going to have to pay for your own people. And they're, like, when they talk about paying for their own people, they're talking a cost of like $80,000 a year. And so for them to ask us, I don't know. I go back and forth on this too. I don't know. Because Ryan and I sat at the meeting because they originally brought this up, and we both said that. Well, why would we pay? And then they pulled up their list and said, well, we can tell you because you have this many people from Hooper, you have this many people. So I don't know. I don't know if it's right for us just to say no, we're not willing. I don't know, because Chris said that. He said, well, yeah, but our people only went to Roy when we weren't doing it any longer. And I said, well, no, because Ryan and I went to a meeting in February and they gave us the numbers. And at that time, we were still doing it here. So it's a sad situation. The whole thing is a sad situation. And I don't ever want to feel like our seniors feel like we are not taking care of them. We don't.
Maybe you have to have all the cities go to the county commission meeting and gripe.
The county commission were at the meeting and said, and a lot of it's grants. They get federal money that helps pay, then the state matches. So I don't know, maybe it's our legislators we need, I don't know what we need to do, but yeah. And the county, and Davis County only has so many centers, period. And Davis County owns the buildings, and they just pay everything for those centers. That's not the case in Weber County. Weber County, all the cities independently own the buildings. And that's what the mayor said. Well, wait a minute, Weber County, you're getting a deal here. We paid for our building, we build our building, we pay all the utilities, and all you have to do is just come and pay for your, and the people pretty well are paying for their own meals, and West Haven does their own currently. They do theirs once a month, and and the people donate like ours did. It was a donation, and they go get the food.
So what's West Haven gonna do? Have they made a commitment?
So on the messages back, I've been responding back, but, you know, the last was, I haven't heard back if West Haven is interested.
So they're saying if we don't participate, they're gonna have to shut it down,
they
or it's
will-
just gonna cost them more
They
money.
will not be selected as one of the centers. And Roy has said we can't fund this all on our own if we don't have any help
So
from
they,
Weaver Human
so
Services.
Roy will get some funding from Weber County, right?
So if us and we and West Haven go in on them, and they're selected as one of the cities,
get some
they will
funding.
get funding from Weber County, Weber Human Services. But if they, like according to his message, if we don't, then they won't be selected as one of the centers, and theirs will close.
How many were coming to this?
11 came
11.
today, and that's about what
So-
come is 11 people.
That's here?
So your that cater guy was $16.
$16 a plate. And Chris said they've already pretty much have enough money to pay for half of a year at a one-time a month. And he said there's still other businesses they're going to go contact to see about them donating to do meals.
So,
It's kind of tough.
so as many as from Hooper that want to go to Roy can go if we give them $2,000?
Well, they
Is that-
can now anyway.
They
Yes,
can.
I mean, they have been. In the past, anybody can.
And
can
they could go
go.
5 days a week if they want?
5 days a week. He said low cost or no cost lunch is 5 days a week. Yeah, but they're only going to be at
That's a
the
pretty
3
good deal.
selected
Yeah.
centers.
Yeah.
I know,
But then some of them probably can't drive up there, or
Well,
they would rather come
and
here.
they said so when they hadn't been coming here, and so when I asked, you know, the senior in our neighborhood, I said, and she said, well, we've all been going to Roy except for like a couple of them weren't, and so they didn't want to drive up to Roy, and so
So what if, because we did talk about doing it once a month.
once a month.
So what if we?
But we didn't
make-
really say a price,
Right.
but
So what if, I'm kind of leaning towards, let's do it here once a month and then figure out how to pay Roy $2,000.
And then do what? And then how to pay,
Pay Roy. So they
or
have
to
that.
pay for them?
Pay for our citizens to go, because it would be cheaper for us to feed them once. If we fed them twice a month, we're going to spend more than that. We're going to spend $4,200 a year if we spend them. If we feed them twice a month at $16, that's about $4,200. If we do it once a month, and
$16 a meal.
16 times 11 times 12, right?
this is one thing we
16
found out today too, and again, like I say, I dropped the ball on this.
Yeah, it's for once a month. for a
But
year.
somebody has to still be over it, because like today, we were all down there. I mean, and so then all of a sudden they show up here, and the girls in the office, I mean, they didn't have a credit card, I mean, they didn't have any way, so it really can't be left just up to, you know, like somebody here in the office. I mean, today, that was sad,
I think we had it all set
We-
up, and
we
then
did.
they cancel
and
it.
now they want to do Wednesdays, they don't want to do Thursdays.
Just the seniors would rather do Wednesday?
And they don't want the meals,
They don't?
Well, they want the meals, they don't want their meals, because they said they're not that great, because we said that we could go up and buy the meals from Roy, and they said they're not that great. So if we're doing it twice a month, they'll probably stay here. That still doesn't stop though, because
From
they
them
said
going
this
there.
is what happens. They might have a friend that lives in Roy, because it could be somebody we don't know about that's still going to Roy, so or going to one of the other ones. So
Yeah, I hate to, I don't know. I mean, the seniors,
Well,
they,
maybe we ought to try something out for a couple months, you know, have it 1 meal a month or 2 meals and just have it here and see how many really show up.
When do they have to know by?
well, we were already supposed to have known, but I said, but we're meeting tonight.
So 2,000 to do it once a month, and
Yeah.
another 2,000 to give to Roy, and then go every day. That's a pretty good deal. I don't know what you can ask for more than that.
I'm
Except the
kinda-
ones that can't make it up there, because
Yeah.
there
But
are
they
a lot.
still can come
they
here
can
once
still
a
come
month.
here once a
Yeah.
month.
I think that's probably our best bet, Bryce's.
$4,000 is pretty cheap.
Because we're gonna spend.
But if we're
4,000
going
anyway.
to be getting, I mean, if we can get the donations to pay for the ones here,
Yeah, that'd be great.
and then, you know, I mean, we can try for that. I mean, if they think that they can help with that, and then, you know,
So
we can work that way.
I think too, like some of the old people, the elderly people, seniors, that's probably an event for them to get out of the house and go do something. And if we
They said that.
took it away, I think I'd feel a little bit bad about that. I see where you're coming from, though. I hate it when people always ask us for money, but I think
Well,
I
no,
think there's
just to
some.
see what's going to work. It just,
Yeah,
there were times when you'd only have 4 or 5 people here. But if there's just some, how do we know what, I'm not even sure exactly what we've settled or what we've talked about so far. You're saying $2,000 and they could go to Roy once a
Anytime they
Well,
want.
anytime. And Roy is just saying we either are willing to collaborate with them or they will not come next year. Their fiscal years are from July till June, so come next year, Roy will no longer be an option. Their center will not be selected.
so even the elderly people from Roy will be out.
Who provides Roy's food?
So it's through Weber Human Services.
Same ones that came
Yeah.
here.
So,
Everything is through Weber Human Services except for Riverdale that does their own and they have their own chef, and West Haven who just goes and buys their own meals. Everybody else is through Weber Human Services.
so they have to have a commitment from 2 other cities in order to receive the support.
Us and West Haven.
Okay. So it's not just the money, it's the support from the cities.
Well, it's collaboration of money.
Yeah.
So they
It's funny that that little bit of money makes all the
And
difference
maybe
in the
not-
county.
That's just what he told me.
Yeah.
A couple of thousand, and maybe that would be something too. We need to say, well, we could commit to this. That I was just going back through the message and just making sure it wasn't any more than it. He said, and offering up a couple $1,000 a year in support.
And that buys the food?
Well, I
It's
don't
probably-
know.
It collaborates so the county buys the food.
You know how government
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense. $2,000 is
Well,
not
that would
going
be
to buy it.
$4,000.
No,
Yeah.
but the county is
Yeah.
saying,
Right.
you're not collaborating unless
Right.
you're.
So it's a little buzzword for them to get
And-
grants and all that stuff.
So it just sounds like the county's saying if there's not another couple cities that are willing to put in a little bit of skin in the game, then you guys aren't going to get funding from
That's
us.
exactly what they're saying.
Well, because
And
all
maybe
the-
that's a requirement from whoever they get the money
Yeah,
from,
Yeah.
if it's a
and all the
federal
others
grant.
have combined, because like I said, South Ogden, Washington Terrace combined, North Ogden, Pleasant View combined. So maybe they're thinking, well, yeah, if we're having a Roy one, then why do we have a Roy? Well, West Haven, they didn't pay, but Hooper, and they quit doing our meals too.
Well, I think, who'd you say, Blair and somebody else
Chris Morris and
would
Blair
be willing
Cottle.
to, they've got enough for a year, right?
Well,
Once
they
a
said
month.
that once a month for about half a year. So
Okay.
they said if we do, one meal, they pay for one meal, we do it every other Wednesday, and we do have that schedule where people had signed up what month, if people can change to a Wednesday instead of a Thursday. And it would be the first and the third, and they need someone here to help plate the food. So they said these caterers, I can't remember what Kate's wife's name is. I don't know. But anyway, they would bring up, but the seniors want their foods plated for them. They don't want to do it buffet style.
Picky little fellers.
What
huh?
time do they do?
12 o'clock.
I'm just kidding.
But there are some other,
you're
we
right.
talked
It's
about this before,
ridiculous.
some criteria in order to seniors, get the money.
And I'm probably
They have to
well
do an
into the
activity
senior
at
part.
work too.
Maybe
And
they
we-
can't hit the
we
plate
weren't
good enough, it
doing
might
that.
fall off.
Okay. Well, I mean, I could help. I mean, we could have a sign-up sheet for people to come help.
Well, and I think we did. I think we
Yeah,
already.
I can
had that.
help some of the time. Come on Wednesdays at noon.
We could look and see I can't remember who had it in October.
I
can
think
go
I
back
did.
and Look, I
think
thought
I-
I had my notebook here, but I must have left it out in the car. 'Cause I'm not seeing my notebook.
You said the first and the third?
The first and the third Wednesdays at 12 o'clock.
Our stake used to pay for quarterly dinners for the seniors in the state. Maybe you ought to approach your two stakes and see if they'd like to kick in some money. You'll put their name on the door saying they helped.
Yeah, I'm in October. So
Well,
it's
I know
gonna go to
Chris had said about even advertising more. Do we want to put it in the news? Like you said, people probably don't know. And I don't know. I don't know. Do we want to advertise it more? He said, like, newsletter, put signs up around saying more people come. But the hardest thing, and this is what I said to Morgan today, they need to be a little more committal, though. Like West Haven, they have to call the day before an RSVP. They really do need to call and let us know. Because it really can't be that we're saying we're going to have 5 people. Because sometimes in the winter, it would drop down to, oh goodness, sometimes you really did have maybe 3 or 4 people that came. Well, you can't pay $16 in mail for 15 people and have 3 people show up. And so I think somehow there has to be they call an RSVP and say we're actually going to come. And I said to Chris too, if they were used to paying the $5 before, maybe they would still pay $5 in mail. That sometimes kind of commits them.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
think that's a good idea to have them keep paying because lots of times losing that little bit of money, for nothing makes a difference in some people.
So, well, okay. So we'd already voted before about doing it once a month. So are we still okay doing it once a month? And then we probably would need to have a vote. Probably, and we can't do that because it's a work meeting with Roy. But we're feeling probably positively if it's a couple of thousand, we could probably collaborate with Roy for a couple of thousand and see. But we probably need to make sure it's that, not does a couple mean 2 or a couple means 10 or because
And
then
Roy does it every day if they
Every
want to
day.
go up there.
Roy does
I'm
every
okay
day.
with a couple, like he
I'm
said.
okay with the couple.
What's your thoughts?
Well, a couple times a month?
No, to collaborate with Roy in West Haven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In is Roy and West Haven together now?
Yes.
They're
No,
not.
no, it's
So
only
So
Roy.
where did West Haven come in?
Well, they got to collaborate too.
Yeah, if they don't, the deal goes.
So it's
So-
Roy,
so
West
it's
Haven,
Roy,
and
West
West
Haven,
Haven,
and
and us.
Hooper.
All 3 of us have to collaborate, or
And they'll all go to Roy.
And I'll go to Roy. But again, we are not going to do it every day, and we're not going to provide an activity for them. And that's part. In order for us to even receive any kind of funding from Weaver Human Services at all, you have to. It was, and it has an acronym to it, but it was like older. I don't know what it was. Something Act. And that's where they get the federal funding that funnels down to the state, that funnels down to the county. Well, okay, and we're not. We don't have anybody. We don't have a personnel here.
Somebody's putting a lot of effort into it if they're doing an activity every week
Well-
or every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
That's why they have the staff. Like they would have, I think it was like one full-time, one part-time maybe person. And a lot of them built their centers. Washington Terrace built their center just completely, for the seniors. And they had the Hope Center back at the time when they did. Ramp Grant would help pay for it, and they no longer will for senior centers. But that time but still, Roy invested a lot of money. And you've all seen Riverdale's. They have that really nice senior center. I haven't seen the North Ogden one, so I don't know what it looks like.
Okay. Well, sounds good to me. We can bring it up to a council vote.
Okay. Well, there's a lot, but we're tired, and that's just a work meeting, and so we'll add this on to next time. So I think we're good to go. What we needed to,
Okay.
for sure.
Make sure the
But-
fencing ordinance goes on to the next meeting too. We're still hanging out on that one.
Yes, it's ready, right, to come back
Yeah,
to
we
us?
sent it to Morgan. And I don't know if you
Okay.
sent it out to everybody, but she could do that.
Yeah. One thing we need to talk about, and I'll just give
Can
you.
I just ask, so what's actually the final decision? We paid $2,000 to Roy,
We'll
and then-
collaborate. We'll find
We'll
out for
collaborate.
sure if
Whatever
it's
that-
going to be.
Yeah.
but anyway, the
2,000 or not.
2,000 goes
And 1
to
mil a
whoever
month.
we're collaborating with. And then our senior people can go to Roy every day if they want to,
And then we're
for
still.
2,000.
And
Still
then we're
doing
gonna have
once a
1
month.
mil a
We're
month.
still
here.
doing
And then
once a
still
month.
first and third, they will come here on Wednesdays, but we will
Oh.
only be responsible for paying once a month. and then they are getting donations to pay for the meal the other time a month.
Do we always have to use this caterer, or can we?
We don't have to.
Okay, we can get
He
something else.
just said he thought it might be easier because then they come and then the food's all ready and we can plate it.
Is it, I wonder if it's worth it for those caterers to just do 7, 8 meals. I don't know.
I don't
I
know.
don't know.
Yeah. No, Chris, it was after a meeting, he just approached me and said, okay, the seniors aren't happy. And I said, I know, I'm sorry, I know they're not.
So
And
if
I
they
said,
came
we'll do it
here-
once a month.
Once a month, but they could still go to Roy the same day. I mean,
Mhm.
it looks like we're gonna pay here every Wednesday, or once a month on Wednesday.
But only if they come.
Only if they come.
They have to reserve it.
They have to RSVP or they don't get a meal.
And other than that, then we pay Roy $2,000 and they can go up there every day, 5 days a week.
As many as you want. What a deal. You could-
Unless if we don't, then Roy's no longer one and then they have to go somewhere
Go to
else.
Riverdale.
Yeah.
Find somebody with a van and they can pick them up here and take them to Roy and bring them back.
And we tried to get the van. That was one thing we talked to the seniors about. And originally they said, yes, there could be a van that could come. Well, then when they checked into it, no, they really can't.
No, you'd have to do that
So that
yourself. You'd have
wasn't
to
an
find somebody
option.
with a van that
Yeah,
would do
they
that.
thought it was like the meals on, or not the meals, but the ride share van would come down, but it wasn't.
Oh, they won't do that?
No, no.
Picky in their old age.
Okay.
So, yep, just, not that we need to talk about tonight, but just so you know, we're on it.
That's what I'm
We
getting
talked
picky.
about the
my old
consolidated
age.
fee schedule, and so
About
this will be on the
About
agenda.
everything.
Oh,
In October, Cammie, well, Debbie and I had talked about the parks, and Cammie had gone through it, and so we kind of assigned it out to whoever it would be applicable to, as far as, like, public works thing, anyway. And so we'll go through this in our October meeting, and we'll kind of have, because like I say, Debbie did a lot of, thank you, and work on parks, and so we have that, and then, but no, we went through and kind of some things.
Do you have our old one compared to that? Do you have the old
This is our
fee
old one.
schedule? Okay.
This is our old one, yeah. All this is we just took it and kind of said, oh, well, if this has to do with public works, like just to give you just a quick example, so like one thing is said that we would rent the loader backhoe, and it was like $75 an hour, and we said, well, is that really what it should be to do? And do we really want to even be renting out our large equipment? But then Jared said we have to have it on there because if ever there's an incident, so if someone has like a nuisance violation that they're not taking care of their weeds, and the city, after so many attempts and code violations, we actually can go do the work and then bill the
Charge 'em.
family or charge them.
Oh, you can actually put down their taxes.
Yeah, so Jared said we have to have a fee. This isn't necessarily that we want anybody to come and rent out our dump truck, because we probably don't, but we do have to have a fee associated with it if we want to charge
Right.
them. But there was like asphalting, I mean, there's a lot of different things, so we just kind of went through, there was some cemeteries, so we went through wherever it seemed like, and there's a section here that we've already talked to planning commission, but again, have them go through as far as fines, because we talked about, with the zoning code enforcement fines. Utilities, we just barely went through utilities, but unfortunately, the letter actually came to Dell, but it was July 15th, and said that our garbage rates went up August 1st, 2024. So when we raised them, they already have gone up August 1st now, 5.4%. I'm suspecting they'll go up another 5.4% next year. So really, even though we raised our rates, we are recycle containers $7.52 a container, and we just raised them to $7.50. So we're already not much, a little in the hole. And then if they raise again, so really, and they talked about this down there at this conference too, that in order for us to stay on top of things, everything's going up. Our rates are probably going to go up every year. Because like I say, we're next year, we can't already, we can, but we already raised them. So I don't really see about raising them 5.4%.
Well, they'll be able to give a little more notice than the last minute.
I agree. And it probably wouldn't hurt to get other bids. Not saying we don't want to stay with waste management, but it might not hurt to get other bids, because next year, in order for us to stay, we're going to have to go up 10.8%. to cover this 5.4, and if it goes up 5.4 August 1st again, and then we're gonna be back in again, not
Maybe we
covering.
need to try and negotiate with them too,
Yeah,
you know?
well, they went up all, every, anyway. But so this can be part of our fee schedule, and like Cammie, I think she mentioned this at one of our meetings too, we should do this every year. We really do need, not that we're going to make changes to our fee schedule every year, but we really should review it. Because like we found when we were going through the park to rent a Bowery for $10, well then, maybe that's not realistic, because if we pay our worker to go down on a Saturday and dump the garbages, and we're paying him time and a half, we are going in the hole, because we're paying our worker more than $10 to go down and dump the we pay more than that for the orange garbage sacks when they dump them.
Yeah.
So we really do probably, and like Cammie recommended. So anyway, we'll be ready to talk about this. I think we said the 1st in October, didn't we, Morgan?
Yeah, it's October 3rd.
October 3rd, then plan on that, and we'll go through this. And by then, hopefully, all these pieces we'll have all this information back from everybody that's going to be looking at their section that they're an expert in, and then we can go through that. So
We need to sign the senior dinners.
I can't
I'm on-
believe
I think it went
it's
to
already
Wednesday, that
September.
Wednesday.
No, that's Thursday.
I think
yeah.
so. The senior dinners are Wednesday.
Wednesdays. They
Wednesdays are
wanted the
senior dinners.
1st and 3rd Wednesdays.
So who am I going to call to make how many people are going to be there? Do I call Malcolm?
So we're
Let's put on Malcolm. He needs something.
no, we're
Yeah.
not giving this to Malcolm. I think we just
Sounds
need
like
to
a
have an
Morgan issue.
RSVP list here at the city, and then, and if we're just gonna do those catered meals, all we have to do is come and help plate them and be here. You wouldn't even be responsible, which to me sounds, if we can just pay every month, sounds to me the easiest. Because just like today, we have something come up, and if something can't, and Chris said they would try to get someone to be here to help plate the food for them. And
I'm betting we can find some people in the community that would be happy to be on a committee to help with the seniors. Because, everybody wants to help take care of them if they know there's a need.
yeah,
So,
and then we'll just see. But I think they really do, like I said, RSVP, because come winter, because even today there wasn't a lot. He told me they had extra, but I don't know how much. They said not that much, but
Probably 2 plates.
yeah. But even 2 plates would be $30, and if we
Yeah.
do that every time, then we can ask them. So, okay. Well, like I say, there's lots, but we can do that next time. So.
Good.
okay.
Okay.
All
Hey,
right.
real quick, is it reasonable to expect to have what you guys need on the 12th? When you're getting
What?
you're requesting things on
The fiscal analysis.
the fiscal impact analysis? You guys think you'll have what you need on the 12th? If you
Right,
request-
is that Monday?
That's
No, that's
12th is
Thursday.
Thursday.
That's
but
a-
Monday's when you get it.
I'm emailing you guys a list on Tuesday.
yeah.
Are you gonna have what you need Thursday from them? Do you think are you looking to have quotes or back by?
Yeah, then
by
maybe we
Tuesday?
better
That'd be a
have it.
one-day turnaround on a quote.
That's true.
Oh.
Well, we could find out what they do.
Well, we'll call around and I'll get with you and let you.
What about if everybody had them to Malcolm? You worked on this, we could have them to Malcolm Monday, and he even got them to us Monday. Would that work? That would give us another day to be able to.
Yeah.
And in the
I
meantime,
just
we
don't
can
want you
be,
guys to meet if we don't,
no,
you want you guys to have what you need before you meet again, so you can make your decision.
If you're not ready, then cancel the meeting.
I mean, they might not be exact bids, but they'll be approximate, I'm sure, because, it's really hard for someone to give you, $3,218. And so they might just say around 3,000 or something like that.
That's
Very
good.
good.
I think
If
that
they
would
don't
be
have
close
them, then they
enough.
just do it the next week.
yeah. We would just have to have 24 hours to cancel the meeting, so we need to know by Wednesday. So, okay.
Okay.
All right, and
Thank you.
since this is recorded, I didn't mean old people are getting picky in their old age. Just want to put that out there. So,
Well, they are.
well, I am, but I didn't want to offend anybody, so.
My parents
I'm getting picky in my old